In the hush of a warm Mesopotamian night, beneath a canopy of shimmering stars, we journey back over 5,000 years to ancient Sumer. Here, between the life-giving waters of the Tigris and Euphrates, a gentle breeze stirs the date palms and rustles through fields of barley. This land was home to one of humanity's first great civilizations, a people who called themselves the Black-Headed People, living in independent city-states that together formed Sumer. It was a world of mud-brick cities and sacred temples, of humble farms and bustling markets. So much of what we now take for granted began in this tranquil cradle of civilization. Let's wander slowly through their stories and daily rhythms, letting the calm of that ancient time envelop us like a soft dream. Imagine the early dawn in Sumer. The sky over the plain turns pale gold, and the two great rivers glint in the first light. A farmer in a small village near the city of Uruk rises with the sun. He steps out of his simple mud-brick house, its walls cool and thick, built from clay bricks shaped by hand and dried in the sun. Homes in Sumer were often made of mud brick or bundled reeds, with arched doorways and flat roofs. On hot summer nights, families slept on those roofs under the open sky to catch any whisper of breeze, gazing at the same stars we see now. In the courtyard below, the farmer's wife is already grinding grain to bake the day's bread in a clay oven. The rich scent of barley bread mingles with the morning air. In Sumer, barley was a staple, not only baked into hearty loaves, but also brewed into the beloved beer that even the gods were said to enjoy. The farmer shoulders a sturdy wooden plow and heads to his field as the light grows. Long ago, the people of Sumer invented the plow, revolutionizing agriculture. By the glow of dawn, he guides 2 oxen to furrow the soft earth. His plow is a valuable tool, so valued that scribes once composed an instruction manual for it, complete with a humble prayer to Ninkalim, the goddess who guards the fields, asking her to protect the grain from hungry mice. As the plow cuts through soil, little clouds of dust rise in the still air. The farmer pauses to wipe his brow and offers a thankful thought to Enlil, the god of winds and storms, for the calm weather. In Sumerian myth, Enlil was a powerful deity of the sky and air. His very breath was believed to create the gentle wind that now cools the farmer's face. According to their ancient stories, it was Enlil who separated heaven and earth, making the world habitable for humans, and who later, when angered by the clamor of mankind, sent a great flood to cleanse the earth. But another god, wise Enki of the waters, warned a righteous man and saved humanity from that deluge. With each furrow the farmer tills, he is quietly grateful for the god's mercy and the rich silt that the river's floods leave behind. Water is life here. When the farmer opens the sluice gate on an irrigation canal, water trickles out to soak the rows of crops. The Sumerians were brilliant at managing water. They engineered canals and dikes to channel the spring floods, storing and directing the flow to nourish their fields. Dams made of bundled reeds and mud could be opened or closed with wooden gates to regulate the water. Because of this ingenuity, the once dry plain blooms with wheat, onions, beans, and orchards of dates and figs. Life can thrive even in the heat of summer, as long as the water flows where it's needed. The farmer, tending his plot of land, understands this balance. As he works, he hums a softly lilting tune, perhaps an old hymn passed down through generations. The song honors the goddess of grain, Azina, whose bounty fills their tables, and Ninhursag, the motherly deity of the earth, who makes the soil fertile. In Sumerian belief, every aspect of nature had its divine patron. The fields, the date palm, the evening star, the very beer he will drink later, all are gifts of the gods. By mid-morning, the farmer's children have gone into the city for lessons. Education was important in Sumer. It's here that writing was born, and with it the first schools. In a shady courtyard in town, a scribe gathers a few boys, and perhaps a lucky girl from a wealthy family, for the day's instruction. They sit cross-legged on the ground, each with a damp clay tablet and a reed stylus. Patiently, the scribe guides them in pressing the stylus tip to clay, forming wedge-shaped marks. This is cuneiform, humanity's earliest known writing system, invented by the Sumerians. At first, they only used it to record simple accounts, temple storehouse inventories, offerings, trade goods, but over time it grew into a full written language. On these tablets, the children learned to write lists of crops, practice naming the months, maybe copy a proverb or two for wisdom. One student carefully scratches the symbol for star and pronounces the Sumerian word. Another writes the sign arrow, which is read as T, meaning life. In this way, thousands of symbols and syllables come to life in clay. It is hard work for small hands, but the scribe smiles encouragingly. Literacy is a ladder here. Most common folk remain illiterate, but a bright student who masters writing might rise to become a royal scribe or a temple official. In Sumer, knowledge is power, and the scribes hold the keys to the kingdom of knowledge. As noon approaches, the city of Uruk is awake and lively. Uruk is one of the great Sumerian city-states, and at its peak, around 2800 BCE, it may have been the largest city in the world, with as many as 40 to 80,000 people living within its 6 miles of walls. Its streets are narrow and bustling. We follow the farmers' children through the busy marketplace, where merchants call out from beneath awnings of woven flax. The air is filled with mixed aromas: baking bread, goats on the hoof, fresh fish from the river, and the pungent scent of date wine. People of many professions jostle here: fishermen unloading their catch, farmers with baskets of onions and garlic, potters selling stacks of clay bowls, and merchants from distant lands displaying rare treasures. Sumer had few natural resources beyond its rich soil, so trade was the lifeblood of the cities. Here in the market, one might see copper from the mountains, shining ingots brought by traders from distant Oman or Anatolia, or blue lapis lazuli stones all the way from far-off lands to the east, perhaps Afghanistan. There are logs of cedar and ebony, hauled from distant forests since Sumer's plains have little wood. In exchange, the Sumerians offer grain, wool, woven textiles, and clay crafts. One stand displays beautifully carved cylinder seals, little stone cylinders intricately carved with scenes of heroes and animals. A merchant demonstrates how, when rolled across clay, a seal leaves behind a repeating pattern. These seals are used like signatures, each person's unique mark. A wealthy trader wears his seal on a cord around his neck as proudly as we wear an ID card or jewelry. Watching over the market are the city guards at the gate, leaning on their spears in the midday sun. Uruk's walls loom nearby, massive ramparts of sun-baked brick. The Sumerians built towering defensive walls around their cities. AncientHistoryList.com. For while they loved peace and prosperity, they knew the sting of conflict. Beyond the gate stretches the open plain. Farmers work just outside the city, and if danger threatens, they will hurry inside these protective walls. In earlier times, the various Sumerian city-states sometimes quarreled over fertile land, water rights, or trade routes. The kings of rival cities like Umma and Lagash, or Uruk and Kish, occasionally led their soldiers to battle. Sumerian soldiers marched in phalanx-like ranks with long spears, helmets, and rectangular shields. They even developed light, two-wheeled war carts pulled by donkeys, an early form of chariot. But such sights are rare now. On this peaceful day, the walls serve only to cast a strip of welcome shade for vendors and travelers resting against their cool base. Near the city's center, rising above the 1- and 2-story homes, is an imposing stepped structure that dominates the skyline: the Temple Ziggurat. Ziggurats are the sacred pyramids of Mesopotamia, and Uruk's ziggurat is dedicated to the sky god Anu and the love and war goddess Inanna. It looks like a man-made mountain of terraces, its brick walls glowing reddish gold in the sunlight. These massive temples began to appear by around 2200 BCE. They rose in tiered levels, solid cores of mud brick faced with fired brick, climbing perhaps 70 or even 150 feet high. At the flat summit stood a shrine to the city's patron deity. Ziggurats had no interior rooms. Their purpose was to elevate the shrine toward the heavens. A broad ramp-like stairway leads upward in stages. The Great Ziggurat of built around 2100 BCE by King Ur-Nammu, still stands in the desert, a testament to Sumerian architectural ingenuity and devotion. Within Uruk, people say that in earliest times the great sky god An, also called Anu, himself walked these streets until he withdrew to the heavens and left the city under Inanna's protection. Inanna, the Queen of Heaven, remains Uruk's patron goddess. Even today, the priests say, she watches over the city's fortunes. At the foot of the ziggurat lies a sprawling temple complex. By afternoon, as the heat reaches its peak, many citizens gather in the temple's shaded courtyards. Some come to pray, leaving small offerings of fruit or bread to thank the gods for blessings. Others bring issues for the priests to help resolve: a dispute over a field boundary, a sick child needing divine healing, a contract that needs witnessing. In the earliest days of Sumer, before kings became powerful, the cities were governed by priests and priestesses acting on behalf of the gods. These high priests, called En or Ensi for males and Nin for females, were the stewards of the city's patron deity. Even now, with kings in their palaces, the priests hold great influence. They oversee vast temple estates with fields, herds of animals, and workshops. The temple is not just a spiritual center, but an economic hub. Its granaries store the harvest. Its records, written on clay tablets by busy scribes, track the wealth of the city. In the cool dimness of an administrative chamber, a scribe carefully counts sacks of barley being delivered as tax from farmers. With quick strokes of his stylus, he numbers each sack in cuneiform on a tablet, one vertical wedge for 1, 2 for 2, up to 60. The Sumerians use a sexagesimal or base 60 number system. It may seem peculiar to us, but echoes of it are still heard every time we count 60 minutes in an hour or 360 degrees in a circle, a living legacy of Sumerian mathematics. Long ago, before writing, people simply made tally marks or used tokens to count goods. But the Sumerians formalized counting into abstract numbers. They even invented the abacus for quick calculations. In a closet of this very temple, one might find a wooden counting board for keeping track of large transactions. Through scribes and priests, the temple also became an early bank, lending grain in lean times and collecting it in good times, keeping the economy's heart beating steadily. Day by day, transaction by transaction, the Sumerians were codifying the very concept of law and accountancy. When the sun begins to slant westward, a low horn sounds from the ziggurat. It is an invitation and a gentle command to prayer. In the courtyard, people bow their heads as a white-robed priest lifts his arms toward the sky, chanting a hymn to the city's gods. The words resonate softly off the brick walls. He praises An, Lord of the heavens, Enlil, Lord of wind and storm, who can level mountains with a whisper, Enki, wise Lord of water and crafts, who filled the rivers and taught mankind skills, and Inanna, bright morning star, goddess of love and the fiercest of warriors. The priest recalls how Inanna once descended into the underworld, the realm of her sister, the goddess Ereshkigal, and by her trials there ensured the cycle of seasons and fertility. He recites how Enki shaped humans from clay in the image of the gods, and how all the good things of civilization, the arts of music, writing, weaving, farming, were gifts of the gods to Sumer. In fact, one popular myth tells that Inanna herself, in the earliest days, traveled to Enki's city, the holy city of Eridu, and cleverly persuaded Enki to give her the sacred tablets of wisdom that held the decrees of civilization, everything from kingship and law to music, pottery making, even the art of brewing beer. And so she brought the gifts of culture back to humanity. The gathered crowd murmurs assent. Their world is suffused with the divine. The boundaries between gods and people are thin in memory and story. It is said that in a golden age long before, gods and humans lived together, eating at the same table. Though those days have passed, the people still feel the gods' presence in every aspect of life. If the river runs high, it is Enki's delight. If storms ravage the crops, perhaps the people have displeased Enlil. Maintaining divine favor is a community effort, and this daily prayer is one small part of that eternal relationship. With the afternoon waning, our farmer's family regathers at home after their day's tasks. Their house is modest but comfortable by Sumerian standards, a rectangular layout with 2 rooms on the ground floor and a ladder to a flat roof. The walls, made of mud brick plastered with clay, have kept the interior cool through the scorching day. In the main room, light filters in from a high window, falling on the packed earth floor. The farmer's wife tends the hearth. She has drawn water from the well and now mixes it with malted barley, starting a fresh batch of beer to ferment. Sumerian beer is thick, nourishing, and mildly intoxicating, a staple drink safer than water at times and enjoyed by all classes of society. Because it's made from bread and barley, it's cloudy with sediments, so people drink it with long straw-like tubes to filter out the solids. The beer is so central to life that the Sumerians even had a patron deity of brewing, the goddess Ninkasi. In her honor, they composed a hymn to Ninkasi, which is at once a song of praise and the world's oldest beer recipe, describing the brewing process step by step. As the sweet scent of mash fills the home, the farmer recalls a wry proverb, "He who drinks too much beer must drink water." Advice is true now as it was in Sumer's heyday. The family settles down together for their evening meal. They sit on reed mats around a low table. There is barley bread, of course, and a stew of lentils and onions cooked with garlic and flavorful herbs. Perhaps there is a bit of mutton or fish in the stew, a welcome treat, and fresh dates for dessert. They eat with their hands and sop up the stew with bread. By the flicker of an oil lamp, they enjoy simple comforts. The children chatter about their day. The daughter shows a small clay doll her friend gave her. The son excitedly describes a game of hoops and sticks he played in the alley. Sumerian children didn't have modern toys, but they made do with small clay animals, spinning tops, jump ropes, and games of chance. One of the oldest board games in the world, the royal game of was enjoyed by Sumerians. Its game board of inlaid shell and lapis lazuli was found in a royal tomb. We can imagine the father drawing a simple grid on the floor and teaching his son a similar game with pebbles and marked squares. After dinner, the farmer brings out a special treasure to delight his family, a lyre. This lyre is a small harp-like instrument. Its wooden frame, decorated with the carved figure of a bull's head gilded in gold. It's a humble cousin of the magnificent bull-headed lyre of that famous harp covered in gold and lapis lazuli, fashioned over 4,000 years ago for a royal grave. The bull-headed lyre of discovered in a Sumerian royal tomb, c. 2550 BCE, is one of the world's oldest stringed instruments. Its golden bull's head honors Shamash, Utu, the sun god, and the inlaid panel shows mythical scenes, perhaps an ancient story set to music. In the glow of lamplight, our farmer plucks a few notes on his plain lyre. The gentle music twines through the warm air. Music was loved in Sumer. At festivals and feasts, there would be drummers, flutists, and harpists playing melodies to please the gods and entertain the people. The mother begins to sing, her voice low and soothing. Tonight she chooses an ancient tale to sing, the epic story of Gilgamesh, the hero king of Uruk. As the melody softens, she recounts how Gilgamesh, said to be 1/3 man and 2/3 god, built the mighty walls of Uruk in times long past. He befriended the wild man Enkidu, defeated the monster Humbaba in the distant cedar forests, and even journeyed to seek the secret of eternal life. Though he did not find immortality, Gilgamesh returned wiser, understanding that to be remembered and to live justly is the true legacy of a mortal king. The children listen, rapt and sleepy, as the golden tales of their land unfold. Outside, the sky has dimmed to deep blue. The first stars peek out, and among them shines a bright planet, the evening star. The Sumerians know it well. It is Inanna's star, the planet Venus, which they observed and charted with great care. In fact, these early skywatchers identified 5 wandering stars, planets, visible to the naked eye, and gave them names, weaving them into their myths and calendars. Over generations, priests studying the heavens created a lunar calendar to guide planting and festivals, carefully noting the movements of the moon and stars. They recorded celestial events on clay tablets and could predict the arrival of seasons and even eclipses. In their number system of 60, a year was divided into 360 days, and they likely added extra days to align with the true solar year. Time itself, hours, minutes, seconds, traces back to the quiet genius of those scribes and scholars gazing at the Sumerian sky. Back in the lamplight of the home, the mother finishes her song. It is nearly time for the children to go to sleep. But first, their father has a small treat. He reaches into a clay jar and pulls out a few dates and roasted barley cakes glazed with honey, saved from market day. As the children happily nibble, he reminds them of another wise saying, "He who eats too much will not be able to sleep." They giggle, knowing the proverb well. It's a line from their culture's trove of proverbs, going back centuries. The Sumerians loved proverbs and wise sayings, often humorous or practical, and scribes made students copy them as exercises. These snippets of wisdom give us a glimpse of their everyday concerns and common sense. Wealth is hard to come by, but poverty is always at hand, one saying warns. The poor are the silent ones of the land, goes another. Such lines hint at the social realities, a stratified society of rich and poor, yet also a belief that hard work and the gods' favor could improve one's lot. In Sumerian society, the king and priests sat at the top, followed by wealthy merchants and scribes, then the farmers and artisans, and at the bottom, slaves, usually prisoners of war or those in debt. But within the walls of this little home, these hierarchies fade. The family's simple joy is the same joy kings desire: good food, loving kin, music, and peaceful rest. After tidying up, the family climbs the ladder to their roof. Tonight, a soft breeze blows from the northwest, bringing cooler air across the plains. They arrange reed mats and wool blankets on the flat rooftop, a Sumerian bedroom under the stars. Far in the distance, the lights from the temple Ziggurats' torches flicker like earthly stars, mirroring the constellations above. The children pepper their father with one more question, perhaps about the stars, or maybe about the underworld that Inanna visited. Gently, he explains what their people believe. When life's days are done, all souls travel to a dusky realm below the earth known as Kur. It is a dim and silent place ruled by Ereshkigal, the queen of the great below. There, the spirits lead a shadowy version of life on earth, neither joyous nor terribly painful, merely an existence in echo. The dead eat dry dust and clay for bread, though family members still alive might pour libations of water and beer into the grave to quench their thirst in the afterlife. The notion offers little comfort or terror. It simply is. Knowing that afterlife holds no grand reward or punishment, the Sumerians put extra value on living well here and now. This life under the open sky is the greatest gift of the gods, so they build their legacy in their cities and their children, hoping their name will be remembered and their deeds recorded on tablets for future generations to read. As the children's eyelids grow heavy, their mother leans over and begins to croon a lullaby. Lullabies were cherished in Sumer. In fact, the oldest known recorded lullaby comes from this very land, from the city of Ur. In a low, soothing voice, she sings an ancient cradle song once composed for a prince. Sleep come, sleep come, sleep come to my son. Put to sleep his open eyes. Settle your hand upon his sparkling eyes. Let not his murmuring tongue spoil his sleep. Her melody is soft and repetitive, like a verbal rocking that sways the children toward dreams. The words invoke peace and protection, asking the gentle night to cradle the little ones. Overhead, the moon, the god Nanna, patron of the city of Ur, casts a silver light. It was said that Nanna, also called Sin, watched over all sleepers and travelers by night from his luminescent boat in the sky. Perhaps the family offers a quick prayer to Nanna, thanking him for clear skies and calm weather. The moon's cool radiance washes over the rooftop, and the family, huddled together, feels a deep sense of contentment. Tonight, as on countless nights over millennia, the city around them lies in peaceful twilight. If we listen closely, we might hear faint music from a distant tavern where travelers share stories and cups of date wine. We might catch the echo of laughter from a nearby courtyard, or the bark of a dog chasing something down an alley. These are the gentle sounds of a civilization at ease. There was a time when Sumer knew strife. Kings like Eannatum or Gilgamesh fighting battles, empires rising and falling, but in this moment all of that is far away. Indeed, Sumer's own long story would have its twilight. The cities would eventually be united by Sargon of Akkad's conquests, then later revived in a Sumerian renaissance under King Ur-Nammu of Ur. And by 2000 BCE, new peoples and languages, Akkadians, Babylonians, would blend with and inherit Sumer's culture. Much later, the bricks of Uruk and Ur would crumble to sand, buried until modern archaeologists uncovered their greatness once more. But those are tales for another time. Here and now, in our mind's eye, Sumer lives, timeless. We pull back our view and see the city of Uruk from above. The sun has long set, and oil lamps twinkle in homes and streets like tiny earthbound stars. The Euphrates River reflects the moon as it winds past the city walls. In the temple precinct, a few priests keep the overnight vigil, tending the sacred flame and reading the omens of the night. But most of Uruk sleeps. The achievements of this civilization rest safely in the minds and hearts of its people, and in thousands of clay tablets tucked away on shelves, their wedge-mark inscriptions quietly drying in the dark, waiting for daylight and the eyes of readers to give them life. Within those tablets lie the Sumerians' profound understanding and curiosity, records of the movements of Venus, lists of medicinal herbs, contracts of merchants who dared to travel for months to bring back rare goods, hymns that capture the yearnings of humanity for love and mercy, laws that set out fairness and justice. The oldest known law code, written by King Ur-Nammu of Ur around 2100 BCE, is among them, inscribed in careful Sumerian script. It ordains that the weak shall not be oppressed by the strong, a principle echoing the values of order and compassion that Sumer sought under the gaze of the gods. Every invention and innovation, from the wheel to the written word, from the potter's kiln to the sailboat, from the first city map to the first love poem, is a thread in the tapestry of Sumer's legacy. The Sumerians were amazingly creative. They mass-produced pottery with the invention of the potter's wheel. Turning humble clay into myriad vessels, they cast metal tools and weapons with advanced skill. They built the first arched doorways and columned halls in their palaces. And they raised mighty ziggurats that still awe us today. They organized labor and formed the first cities. They divided time into hours and degrees. They wrote down recipes, songs, and school lessons. They even formed the first known libraries, collections of tablets on various subjects, curated for knowledge. Though much of their clay archive remains fragmented or lost, what survives reveals a people who were pragmatic and imaginative in equal measure. Lying on the rooftop, the farmer contemplates his day. His stomach is full, his children are safe and drifting to sleep, and he is surrounded by the invisible goodwill of his community and his gods. Overhead, the Milky Way splashes across the sky as it did every night, a river of stars the Sumerians believed to be the flowing waters of the goddess Nammu, the primeval sea of creation. He recalls that in Sumerian cosmology, in the beginning there was only Nammu's cosmic ocean, until from her arose all things. F. Perhaps they simply dream of the gentle Euphrates flowing by the fields of grain, or of a big harvest feast with music and dancing. The mother unconsciously pulls her son closer, as the last lines of the lullaby she sang echo in her drowsy mind. May the lullaby make us flourish. May the lullaby make us thrive. When you flourish, when you thrive, sweet sleep. Sweet sleep indeed has come to Sumer, and so as our journey through ancient Sumer comes to an end, we linger a moment longer in the tranquility of that starlit roof. The legacy of Sumer drifts around us like a comforting mist. We know that by 1750 BCE, Sumer's final chapter closed. The city-states faded, absorbed by new powers, their language eventually forgotten. But nothing of their spirit was truly lost. Their inventions and ideas quietly shaped the world that followed. Every time we write or calculate time or enjoy a story, a small part of Sumer lives on. In the stillness of this night, time folds in on itself. Past and present merge. We are simply humans under the night sky, connected across ages by curiosity and hope. Let your imagination settle now in that ancient land. Feel the warm breeze of a Mesopotamian summer night on your skin. Hear the distant hoot of an owl and the faint sound of a reed flute playing a lullaby somewhere beyond the walls. The same moon that shines on us shone on Sumerian children as they closed their eyes. In this gentle continuum, you are safe and at peace. The stars above trace old patterns remembered by the first astronomers. The earth below carries the memory of the first farmers and builders. All around is the cradle of civilization, rocking ever so softly. Allow yourself to drift to sleep, cradled by the knowledge that even in the deepest past, people sought love, learned wisdom, and looked up at the same moon in wonder. In ancient Sumer, as in our world, the night brings rest and the promise of a new dawn. Sleep come, settle on your eyes, sweet dreams from the land of Sumer, and good night.